You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference.
Apple is known throughout the world as a company that produces high-quality consumer electronics with an emphasis on high design. Apple got to this point through the leadership of their founder and former CEO, Steve Jobs. Jobs is famous for taking a stand requiring that products sold by his company, Apple Computer, would be better and more innovative than any others. Steve Jobs was born in San Francisco, California on February 24, 1955. He was adopted at birth by Clara and Paul Jobs and named Stephen Paul Jobs. The family lived in Mountain View, California, later known as Silicon Valley, which is now home to many global technology companies including Apple, Facebook, and Google. Jobs enjoyed working on electronics with his father in their home garage. He always had an interest in electronics, but when it came to school, he had no patience for learning. In 1972, at age 17, Jobs attended Reed College in Portland, Oregon, studying physics, literature, and poetry, but was not interested in any of the classes, so he dropped out after only 6 months. However, he was very intrigued by the calligraphy class the college offered, and he decided to drop in for a year and a half. This class taught him about typefaces and influenced the design of the Mac.
Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them.
While he was only a senior in high school, he met his future partner, Steve Wozniak, who was attending the University of California at Berkeley. By the time Jobs was 21, he and Wozniak started Apple Computer out of Jobs' garage. They were inspired to build computers and joined the Homebrew Computer Club. Apple quickly grew into a well-known company with the release of the Apple I that helped them gain funding for their newly founded company. Apple sold 200 units in total. Looking at their success, they went on to design the Apple II. This became one of the most popular computers ever. It came with a color display, a keyboard, and a case. The Apple II was followed by the Apple II Plus in 1979 and the Apple IIe in 1983. Although Apple used almost the same technology as every other computer company there was one thing that set them apart from the rest: design. Apple was all about how the computer would appeal to the public and how the user would enjoy using something that looked as good as it ran.
To me, marketing is about values. This is a very complicated world. It's a very noisy world. And we're not going to get a chance to get people to remember much about us. No company is. And so we have to be really clear on what we want them to know about us. Now, Apple, fortunately, is one of the half a dozen best brands in the whole world. Right up there with Nike, Disney, Coke, Sony. It is one of the greats of the greats, not just in this country, but all around the globe. And but even a great brand needs investment and caring if it's going to retain its relevance and vitality. And the Apple brand has clearly suffered from neglect in this area in the last few years. And we need to bring it back.
The one product that really set them apart from the others was the Macintosh, released in 1984 with a price tag of $2,495. It was one of the more expensive computers on the market, but this was for a reason. Although a huge success, Apple had many ups and downs. Many times, Steve would make enemies with his own company. He would keep meetings up past midnight and then call new meetings at 7 a.m. Steve went into a deep depression, Scully said. As a result, Steve came to me and he said, "I want to drop the price of the Macintosh and I want to move the advertising shift, a large portion of it, away from the Apple II over to the Mac." I said, "Steve, it's not going to make any difference. The reason the Mac is not selling has nothing to do with the price or with the advertising. If you do that, we risk throwing the company into a loss." And he just totally disagreed with me. And so I said, "Well, I'm gonna go to the board." And he said, "I don't believe you'll do it." And I said, "Watch me." The board ultimately agreed with Scully, and Jobs was fired. As a response, Jobs decided to found a new company named Next. His plan was to use the same software and similar hardware to try and defeat Apple in sales and marketing. They came out with products such as the Next Cube, which was similar to the Macintosh. Even after getting fired from Apple, Steve was furious. Apple thought that Jobs was stealing ideas and software from them, so they decided to make an agreement that they could inspect each computer if they wanted to. Apple eventually bought Next in 1996 for $429 million to have Steve come back to Apple.
We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out.
Because Steve Jobs took a stand for high-quality, innovative products, Apple Computers went from a garage-based computer company to today being the largest consumer electronics company in the world. Steve Jobs' commitment to the highest standards of quality and design are what made this possible.
What we're going to judge ourselves by, the senior management of the company is going to judge itself by, is can we maintain this atmosphere of tremendous creativity, tremendous productivity, a company where it's just fine to fall on your face as long as you pick yourself up pretty fast. An environment where we give people enough rope to hang themselves by and hope that they don't. If we can maintain that for the next 10 years and beyond, we'll have been successful. And the rest of the stuff will take care of itself. The rest of the stuff will take care of itself.